Positive Anime Reviews is a review show that is designed for people who aren't very picky about their anime, like me. Most anime I watch ends up in my 5 out of 5 category. My reviews are for those people who are looking for a reason to watch anime rather than hate on it. I am willing to give any and all anime a chance before stating my opinion. Lastly, my reviews are all my opinion and might or most likely won't match yours. If you don't agree, that's totally fine. Just be respectful in the comment section. Thank you. And as always, there is a spoiler section ahead, but don't worry, I'll warn you first.
Hey guys, Darth Gloric here, back with another positive anime review. Today we will be talking about Toradora. So, Toradora is obviously very easy to pronounce, and so normally I say go by the English name of whatever anime I'm watching, and then I have the Japanese name in the description of the video, but not the case today. Just a one simple, super easy name, so that's nice. Anywho, so before we jump into today's review, a couple things. First of all, sorry it's been so long since my last one. My last review, I believe, was Darling in the Franxx, I believe, and I think that was something along the lines of 3 weeks ago, but it took a while for me to pick an anime to watch, and then once I did pick it, this anime is 25 episodes, and so it does take time, and so that was mostly the reason it took me a while to pick it, and then once I did pick one, it took me a while to get through it, so, it took way longer to pick than to get through, I will say that. Anyway, and so that is why. Second of all, a quick little announcement, I actually started a Patreon, so I'm not going to talk about it super deep or anything heavy in this video, but most likely this weekend or so, I will make like a little announcement video introducing it and the tiers and everything else that I've done. It'll be pretty short, it will not be a very long ordeal, but I will probably talk more about it in a separate video, but a little announcement, so pretty exciting there. Anywho, so let's go ahead and hop right into it. Let me open my little cheat sheet here. So obviously, Toradora is the anime we're talking about today. I have seen this anime multiple times, and so this was not exactly a new one for me. I have seen it several times, and so not a new one for me, but it did air in the fall season of 2008, so not exactly a brand new one this time around, but, you know, nothing wrong with that either. But yeah, in the fall season of 2008, and is there a dub? There is a dub for this one, and I know for sure because I actually watched part of it. The list of anime that I watched that has a dub is very, very small. Now this is not one of them, but I only wanted to check it out just to see if it was really good, to see if the dub was really good. So this is actually one of the ones where I can give you from personal experience that the dub in this anime is actually really well done, that it doesn't have a lot of the things that bother me about most dubs, and so subbed or dubbed, both is really good for this one. I did watch probably 85% of it subbed, but I watched a couple episodes in the middle dubbed just to see what it sounded like, and it was really good, honestly, so this is definitely one that I can recommend. As far as is this an adaptation from a manga, this is an adaptation from a light novel, according to what I understand here. And so, you know, now you know. But let's go ahead and hop right into the synopsis. The synopsis is way easier to sum up than listening to me ramble about, anything specific. Anywho, Ryuji Takasu is a gentle high school student with a love for housework. But in contrast to his kind nature, he has an intimidating face that often gets him labeled as a delinquent. On the other hand is Taiga Aisaka, a small doll-like student who is anything but a cute, fragile girl. Equipped with a wooden katana and feisty personality, Taiga is known throughout the school as the Palm Top Tiger. One day, an embarrassing mistake causes the two students to cross paths. I said that with a weird emphasis. Ryuji discovers that Taiga actually has a sweet side. She has a crush on the popular Vice President Yusaku Kitamura, who happens to be his best friend. But things only get crazier when Ryuji reveals that he has a crush on Minori Kushieda, Taiga's best friend. Toradora is a romantic comedy that follows this odd duo as they embark on a quest to help each other with their respective crushes, forming an unlikely alliance in the process. So this is a rom-com, and like I said, seen it multiple times. And it's awesome. So obviously, judging already by the title, you can tell that this is a positive anime review and not a not positive anime or not so positive anime review. So because of it, you must know that that means I would have had to give this at least a 3 or above, right? Because otherwise it would have a different title. So you know it's good. The question is how good. So let's find out. As far as what genre is it, like I said, it's a rom-com, but it is slice of life, comedy, romance, and then school, if you count that as a genre. The site lists school as a genre. I would kind of disagree, but whatever. Slice of life, comedy, romance, and so yeah, it's a rom-com. And I accidentally opened the wrong tab like an idiot instead of rapidly trying to get to what I was going for. And then I closed freaking Chrome that had the site I was actively using on. Thanks, guys. I am very technically savvy. All right. Anyway, I found it again. It's fine. I was opening it. We're good. Anywho, so let's actually open my little cheat sheet here correctly. So, season length, how long is the season? So, like I said, I did mention in the beginning that this is a little bit of a longer one. There is only one season, but it is at 25 episodes, so it is a little bit on the longer side. But it is, it's very good, and as far as, like, how is it spread over the length of the season, it doesn't feel too long. I've seen a few anime where it felt like that the length was, like, artificial, if that makes sense, that it felt like it was not enough content spread over a long distance. This is not one of those anime, that this one, the length feels really appropriate. Every episode felt like there was a point. It felt like there was a build-up in the relationships and progress, and things progressed, but it was a really good length, I felt like, and I've seen a few anime that did not do that, and so this one is not one of those cases, but it is a little bit longer at 25 episodes, and so if it is a little bit of a longer sit through by comparison to some other ones. Each episode length is very normal at 24 minutes. This is one of those ones that for the most part you don't have to stick around for the closing song. Once it hits, the episode is over for almost every episode, but I know for sure that this is one of those anime that you must stick around at the final episode. There is a little clip after the ending song plays that will make this anime great or garbage, but it's one of those ones. So at the very last finale, make sure you will stick around after the credits. And I think there was a few times, and maybe in the beginning, where the credit song was not the actual ending of the episode. And so this is just one of those anime that it just recommends sticking around for, especially during the finale, and I think in the beginning, but for the most part, you don't have to. Anyway, so moving on into our character list. So, the characters in this one, there is a total of 5 main characters, and then there's probably one other character that I'm going to very briefly touch on. She will be very, very brief, but there is 5 characters that have the main character label, and they are fantastic. So, moving on to our very first main character, and definitely a part of our, our pair of alpha main characters, we have Ryuji Takasu. So Ryuji is one of 2 male, not period. There is other guys, but of our 2 main characters, he is one of the 2. He will definitely be pretty central to probably any of the art I have managed to find, and he is a really, really cool guy, because the synopsis did mention it, but it said who has a love for housework or whatever. But really, it also labeled him as gentle, which is accurate, but it's not that he has a love for housework specifically. For me, he borders on, I would say, OCD, maybe, or like maybe he is a clean freak, really is his thing, but he is very, very gentle, and so it is a really interesting dynamic, because he does look very intense. He is on the taller side, his face is like, his natural face is very aggressive, like, he's very intimidating, and so for a long time, for a lot of the anime, everyone is scared to death of him, because the dude looks like he would be, a bully or dangerous or trouble or whatever. But it's really not the case. I mean, he really is just a giant teddy bear. And so it's interesting, because then as the farther as the anime goes on, and as we as the audience get to know Ryuji, you learn really, really quickly that obviously, very, very quickly, that is not the case. And it's interesting because of how multi-talented he is in relation to all the people he helps, because he is a naturally caring, gentle person. And so he's very, very likable, and then obviously once we introduce Taiga for realsies, he is amazing with Taiga, who is a handful for a very, very long time. And so he is perfect for her, just the way he balances her out. But he's just a nice guy to pretty much everybody. lots of gentle stuff about his nature, and so it is very, very interesting. And he was very, very likable. For me, one of my most liked males, as a very good example of what a good male should be in lots of anime that I've seen. Because not all main characters or whatever are all that interesting or all that of good people, or they're not that good of people. But Ryuji is definitely on the very high top end of the list of what a really just a good person should be. And so Ryuji is fantastic. And so as you get to know this guy, and I imagine you will fall in love with him too, and because he's awesome, he's great. So moving on to our next main character, the other half of our little dynamic duo is Taiga Aisaka. So Taiga has the nickname because obviously Ryuji has this like incorrect, I don't know. He has this incorrect infamy as a delinquent because he just looks like trouble. Well, Taiga similarly has a reputation, but hers is much more well earned. Ryuji is just because he looks intimidating, so everyone just assumes he will be. But for Taiga, she has a nickname called the Palm Top Tiger because she's fierce like a tiger, but she's very, very tiny, like she could fit in the palm of your hand. Hence the name. But Taiga is a fireball. She is very, very tsundere, and so obviously that archetype is very accurate for her. But with a lot of tsunderes, the balancing is sometimes an issue, where if they go too hard it's not like I care or anything, stupid, or whatever. If they go too hard on that side of things, it ends up not being a lot of fun, and I like the archetype tsundere. I always have. I can like it, but it's a very delicate line to walk on of whether it's too much and they're just not fun to deal with, or they are, or it's a very delicate line of I can still do the tsundere thing, but I'm still likable. Well, Taiga manages to straddle it pretty well. That there is several moments throughout the anime where her tsundere is a little bit dialed up and she says something super hurtful or whatever, but she's also going through a lot of things, and there's a lot that as she's learning and as she's growing and stuff, that a lot of it makes sense, and it's a lot of it makes sense, and it's totally fine. But she is a very interesting character, and so she is a lot deeper than her exterior tsundere vibe gives her. There's a lot going on underneath, and so her and Ryuji are a couple. Obviously, obviously that'll end up not being a surprise to anybody. And they end up being an amazing one. And their journey to find love basically is the premise of the anime. And whether it's with their crushes or with anybody else, it's a wild, fun ride. And so Taiga is a really interesting character because obviously she does have the reputation and she does earn it, unlike Ryuji. But she's polar opposite in him in lots and lots of ways. That she tends to be very messy. He's very clean. She tends to be very outspoken and will just knock somebody out. And obviously that's just not his style. And so there's a very much a yin and yang thing going on with these two. And Ryuji is so uniquely equipped to deal with Taiga and how to help her a lot of the time that it's a really fascinating couple to watch together. Whether they're just as friends or whatever else, they're very fascinating to watch together because of how well they manage to balance each other out and how good Ryuji is at dealing with Taiga when she tends to be more trouble than most people would say she was worth. Now that's not, a lot of people are she can be pretty abrasive, so you can see why, but it is kind of the case. Anyway, so moving on to our next main character, we have Minori Kushieda, and I think that's more or less how you pronounce that. Anyway, so Minori is a interesting character. She's very light, very, very bubbly on the surface. She is the redhead in the pictures you're no doubt seeing. She has a darker red hair. There's another character with lighter red hair, but she's a teacher, and I'm not going to cover her. She's a supporting character. But Minori is the darker redhead character, so she's interesting because she is Ryuji's crush. He has a crush on her, but he's no ability to talk to her. And she's very, very bubbly. She's very, very busy. She has lots of jobs. She is the captain of the sports team. She has a lot going on in her life, and she's very, very busy, but very, very peppy. Now, she's very funny in that she has this reputation of being kind of weird because of how funny she is. And you're not around her very long before you really understand what type of character she is, and you really get an understanding of you're like, yeah, okay, I can kind of see the reputation. She's kind of weird. But she's like weird fun. She's weird. It's not a secret to anybody, but she's fun. And she is very, very caring, especially of Taiga. And she is Taiga's best friend. And so it is interesting on how well they work together, because Taiga is so abrasive with most everybody else except for a few select other individuals. And so it is an interesting relationship with them. But Minori's an interesting character. I wasn't super, like, I was never incredibly excited when she was on screen or anything. I'm just very neutral on her character in general. I'm just pretty neutral on her character in general. She's totally fine, and she's very likable and everything. She just never did anything super special for me, because there is lots of heavy parts in this anime that it's a rom-com, and there's lots of lighthearted moments, but this anime has its fair share of more heavy moments that are definitely very heavy in the feels department. And so Minori, there's lots of things that progress, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's lots of moments that progress in there, and I don't totally feel like I always understand her reasoning behind things she does, and I don't really always feel like that I get it. And so she never really clicked with me. Nothing against her or anything, but she is an interesting character nonetheless. Before we jump in farther, just as a quick rating, I forgot to hit, that was a section that I missed, which is rating, which is how clean or dirty is the anime. It's rated PG-13 here, and I would agree with that. It's very PG-13. There's nothing illicit, nothing insane. There is language stuff because Taiga has a swearing problem. But otherwise, I mean, it's very PG-13. So I would say it's pretty suitable for most anyone, except for probably, obviously I wouldn't say kids just because of the language, because Taiga has a language problem sometimes. But otherwise, like, it's totally clean. Anyway, so I just wanted to touch on that really quick before I moved on, because I forgot to. So anyway, so moving on to our next character, we have Ami Kawashima, and I think that's how you pronounce that. So Kawashima is what everyone calls her by. So she is, I think it's blue. Is it blue or purple? So I think it might be blue, but I'm also very colorblind, so I don't know. She's the blue or purple-haired character, and that is on screen. So she is interesting. She's an interesting character. So she's kind of has the whole frenemy rival thing with Taiga going on. Especially very early on, they immediately dislike each other, and they do get into fights. But at some point, and I'm not really sure when it happened, but at some point the line is crossed between we fight because we don't like each other and we fight because we're friends. So they kind of have that whole frenemy rival thing going on, and so it was a little hard to keep up with a lot of the time, and I'm not sure when it changed from I just hate her to we're actually friends though, so it's fine. Like, I'm not sure when that happened. I feel like I missed it, but she's an interesting character. So she is a model. So she's a model, and she kind of crushes on Ryuji, but she doesn't like to say that, and she doesn't like to get into it. But it is interesting because she's kind of crushing on Ryuji, but she kind of complicates a lot of things because she's a model and she has a lot of her own issues as she comes in and out of the anime. And for certain parts you feel sorry for her, and then at certain parts you'll be mad at her and stuff. And she adds lots of interesting flavor to the whole mix because she kind of crushes on Ryuji. She's kind of fighting with Taiga. Then later on she's super fighting with Minori really, really badly, and lots of things happen. But it is interesting. So she is childhood friends with Kitamura, and we will meet him officially in a minute. But she is I believe that was the relationship, was what she was childhood friends with him, and that's how a lot of it got introduced in a lot of ways. And she's an interesting character that she feels very complicated in a way that I'm not sure I totally get her a lot of the time. That a lot of the time I felt like I didn't understand where she was coming from or why. But she adds a lot of interesting flavor to the mix as a whole, and you can take that as you will. I mean, it was good for a lot of relationships. It made it exciting, but in a lot of the time she overcomplicated and made things a lot worse because of her interference. So it's kind of a give and take there. Anyway, but there's not too much to say about her. If I got into too much, I would have to just spoil it, and I'm not trying to spoil it, so because of it, I can't go too deeply. Anyway, so moving on to our next and final main character, we have Yusaku Kitamura. Everyone calls him Kitamura, so he is Taiga's crush. Taiga crushes on him pretty hard, and he is Ryuji's best friend. And so it's interesting because Kitamura is he's a fun character. So he's very responsible. He is first the vice student council president, and then later on the student council president. And And so he's very busy with that responsibility, but he's a very good guy. He's very supportive of everything that's happening with Ryuji and Taiga and everything else. And he's a really interesting character. So a lot of the time, on one side of him is he's very mature and very responsible, and he's very much the quiet supporter, and then sometimes the not so quiet supporter. But either way, he's very likable because you just know he's not going to make anything worse. And a lot of the time, he's actively trying his best to make everything better. And so he was very likable for that reason. On the flip side, he is kind of a dork too. That he has lots of funny moments where he blends in really well with Minori or with Taiga or with whatever silliness is happening. And a lot of the time he's instigating his own silliness and his own unique brand of being a dork. But the side of him was that he was very fun, because either he's being a dork and he's entertaining and it's really funny, or he's being quieter and more supportive, and he's always like in the know in a lot of ways about the socials and about, the social sides and what's happening with everybody. And so in a lot of ways, he was really good about keeping up with that and about helping out. And he was very, very likable, because a lot of the time you just having him being able to step in and calm everybody down when tensions are high or when a feels moment's happening was a lifesaver in a lot of ways. So he is a really great character. So and I forgot to mention how he looks. He wears glasses, and I believe he has black hair. It could be brown, I don't know, but he's a darker haired guy. The only other male main character. And he was super, super likable for those reasons. He was a great contributor to the overall atmosphere without making anything worse. And so he was a good time for that. So that is all of the main characters, but there is one character I want to briefly touch on in the supporting side. There's only one we're going to talk about. So the other character I really like is Yusako? It's Yusako Takasu. So it's Ryuji's mom. Ryuji's mom is very, very young feeling. Ryuji is very much the caretaker. That's just the way he's wired. And so he very much wants to take care of people. And so one of the people he takes care of in a lot of ways is his mother. And so I really loved, I don't know why her name is suddenly so hard to pronounce. Yusako? Yusako. I think it's Yusako. Anyway, they all have different nicknames for her, so it's kind of like Taiga just calls her Ya, but obviously like with I think it's Chan with the names that she adds to it. Anyway, whatever. But the point is Ryuji's mom. So obviously Ryuji's the caretaker. He takes care of his mom a lot. In a lot of ways, she takes care of him as well. It's a kind of a team thing going on. And she was super likable. She was very good about just being super supportive and really adorable. And she's super cute, which is one of the reasons she's so likable. But really, there's a lot about her that is just really, really fun. That Ryuji needs someone to take care of, and he has several people, namely Taiga and his mother. And she wants to take care of him, and she loves him to death. And then later on, she ends up super loving Taiga, and she kind of she basically just includes her in the family, and that is amazing. And she was just really, really fun and one of my favorites. Which we'll talk about more in the next section, obviously. But she was very, very likable. So like I said, she is a side character. So she is the blonde. She's the blonde character. I believe she's the only blonde, actually, in the anime, I think. But anyway, so she was super likable, super, super pretty, and I really enjoyed having her around. It always made me smile when she was on screen, which is always a good sign for a favorite character. Anywho, so moving on to my favorite / most hated characters. So obviously, no secret, I love Ryuji, honestly. I do really love Taiga, but sometimes her tsundere is a little too dialed up for my taste. And I can like tsundere, but it sometimes it gets old, and I wish you would just say what you mean. And so because of it, I don't really include her in my favorite character list. I really love Taiga, but I love Taiga and Ryuji together, and I love that a lot. But really, I love Ryuji, and I love his mother. Yusako is awesome, and she's just so lighthearted and so adorable, and she's just so cute, and I love her to death. And then later on, when there's some feels moments and deeper what's going on in her head was super sweet. I love that to death, and I love the bigger reveals about what's happening behind the scenes emotionally. But really, I just love Ryuji. He is just, for me, the outstanding character of the anime. That he's such a caretaker, and I love that, and he's just such a man. He just wants to take care of Taiga and take care of his mom, and he just wants to do the right thing, and I just really, really, really love Ryuji, and I really love his mom. So those two are my favorite two characters. As far as dislike characters, I always often found found Kawashima really annoying a lot of the time. I didn't hate her, but there was just a lot of the time where she just made everything so much worse, or she instigated trouble when she didn't have to. And I often found her annoying. And then Minori honestly had little moments in and out of me just being like, "What are you doing? You're making it so much worse." Like, and so kind of Minori and Kawashima both had moments where they were really annoying to me. But I didn't hate either of them. They had moments of being kind of annoying. Anyway, so moving on to animation/music. How did it look? How did it sound? And what are the closing and opening songs like? So, animation-wise, it's very well animated. It's very, very pleasant to look at. Lots of the time, it has a very much more of a serious, like, they don't have, like, too many comedic moments, and the art style doesn't really change for those comedic moments. Like, they still keep to their realistic art style that the whole anime is built around, and I really like that. And so it kind of makes it feel like they're being, like, whatever. There's a funny moment, but they're being a little more realistic or whatever. And it was really good. There is some serious moments, and in the serious moments, the art style I really liked it, because in the serious moments, it still has that impact of being serious and really hitting you, and you really get it. But in the lighthearted moments, it still manages to portray that lighthearted feel. So it's very, very well animated, and it's definitely noticeable. As far as the music, I don't recall the music being very outstanding. Honestly, the opening song. So there is 2 opening themes, and I believe that there is 3 closing themes. So the first opening theme was for most of the anime kind of forgettable. I didn't really care, to be honest. And that is episodes 1 through 16. But 17 through 24 has a different theme, and that theme kind of slapped, though, to be honest. It was pretty good. The closing themes were totally fine. I don't really have too much of an opinion. For I think a couple of episodes, it had a Christmassy theme, and for that one they had I guess it was actually just episode 19. They had a Christmas, like a Christmas song version, which was really sweet, really cute, and that was a good time. But the second opening theme was definitely the best one, in my opinion. The first one was kind of forgettable, and I didn't really care about it, to be honest. Anyway, so moving on to final rating and recommendation, I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 5, one of my favorites. This anime is one of my favorites, and I love it. So, recommendation would be, please go watch it. Do yourself a favor. This anime is definitely, it often gets labeled as a very high bar in, like, rom-com animes and basically just romance in general. It's often listed as being as a lot of people's favorites, and it's one of mine. This is actually one of the few that I own a physical copy of, and it is awesome. I've seen it several times, seen it lots of times, and it is always great. So I was very happy to finally be able to actually officially watch it and then review it on the channel, because this is one of my favorites, and you gotta go watch it. The relationship between Taiga and Ryuji is a very, very good time. It does have a good ending. I will not spoil what happens with anything or with everybody, but it's very good. And so for this one, there will of course be no spoiler section, because for a lot of my animes that have a positive review, I don't feel the need to go into spoilers because it's good, so you should go watch it. For animes that are bad, I feel the driving need to warn you why it's bad. So often, in anything that's a positive anime review usually doesn't have a spoiler section, and so this is just one of those cases. So go watch it. It is amazing. I've seen it multiple times, and you should go see it multiple times too. Anyway, but otherwise, that is it. So by the time you're watching this, it's probably the weekend, because I'm not putting this out today of recording, which is Wednesday. So I'm not putting this out today. That'll come out on the weekend. But sometime by the time you're seeing this, it is like I said, probably the weekend, which means probably either out or coming out soon will be my tiny little tour of my new Patreon. So if you are interested in that, you can go check it out if you want to support the channel. And otherwise, I think that's everything. Anyway, that is going to call for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the content today, and we will talk to you guys later.